Okay, and this is 6 scale. It's May 22nd, 2025. Okay, let's do really quickly. I saw Srija. Let's go to this one since we'll start with this real quick. Do we have any updates here, Srija, on this one? Do we need to go over? Srija, do you have any updates on this one? On this PR? Can people hear me? Oh,
Uh, yeah,
yeah.
I'm on mute. I got few comments from Ali to make it a pro job. I'm working on it. I have to test changes.
Okay. All right. So nothing new to talk about with this one for right now.
Yeah, nothing.
Okay.
Um, Brian, and Shrija, I think I'd like to share the idea that we are
Okay.
working towards, so everyone is in sync.
Okay. Elaine, do I need to open a link?
It was the same.
Same one? Okay. Okay.
I think what direction Shrija and I are working towards, I mean, Shrija is working, but I'm, envisioning for this is that we will have an environment file in project infra that will dictate the dates and the vertical lines on the release benchmark graph, and that every release will have to create a PR into project infra to update that dates. And once we have that PR as a pre-submit or post-submit job to that PR, um, the the automation will kick in to draw the benchmarks and the graphs for um, for that configuration. So that's what we are shooting towards, Ryan. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
So at the end of all of this effort, what we will have is every release, whoever is doing it, Lubo or other folks on the call, if you're doing a release, will from 6 scale point of view, we'll have to update some dates and we'll get automatic benchmarks for those for that release.
And just so I can point to like the graph we're talking about, it's in here, right?
I think it's in perf
Or is
scale.
it? It's these. Okay.
Yeah, so we need the dates for those vertical lines. That is the only human input we'll need on this automation.
Okay. All right. So we'll have to, when we have it done, we'll have some docs that we can write and then we can share with everyone that's cutting those releases.
Yeah,
Okay.
sure. Shrija, this is the summary, right? Do you have any more thoughts on this?
Yeah, nothing to add.
Awesome.
Okay. All right. Let's go to the next one. Elaine, did you have this?
Yeah, I added this. Um, so there is an issue opened up for performance side of things where it was reported that the API server was getting a lot of get calls from a component called node labeler. So I think the component has logic of polling on every 3 seconds. It will do a get call against the node where it is running on. So lot of get calls um,
Hmm.
that get accumulated over the hour. So there was a bunch of discussion on increasing this to 30 minutes. But I think from SIG scale point of view is I'm recommending that instead of doing a get call, we should create a very lightweight node specific informer. So it will be a single object informer, and that way we will not have any get calls. All the data would be in the local cache, and we just update it when the node labels change.
So we can put this in perspective here. So this is 168,000 gets on 2K nodes. So vert handler, we have 2,000 vert handlers. They're doing get every 3 minutes. And this is how we get 168,000. And this get is a get of all nodes, right?
No, this is get for just one node
One
that
node. Okay.
is doing on for that node.
Okay. Okay, so we got one node and we're getting the node that this vert handler is running on. So this is scaling for the number of nodes. Okay, so that's how we get this number.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so number of nodes multiplied by the amount of times the get calls ran in 55 minutes, that would give us that number. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, that's a nice experiment. So, all right, for next,
So again, this is something Shrija is looking into. What she's doing is she's running a scale experiment on what would be the impact of a single node informer versus 30-minute get call. My expectation is that single node informer will not be very expensive compared to the 30-minute poll. So I think as a design principle, we should not compromise on best practices if the performance between the single node informer and the 30-minute poll is negligible. If it is not negligible, then obviously we can go towards the 30-minute polling interval. That's what I'm shooting for. I don't know if Lubo or Federico have additional thoughts on this.
So you're just asking about the get instead of informer?
No, I'm asking the other way around. The idea in this thread, so there are two options that was discussed in this thread. One is to do 30-minute get call polling with a polling interval versus a very lightweight single node, single object informer. I'm recommending the informer. I think that'll be a better way of solving this problem. But we need some data to compare both of these solutions from a performance perspective. So Shija is working on getting that data.
Yeah, roger that. Yeah, I don't really have a clue what would be better. The underlying problem is probably that the KSM should not ever be merged into the KubeVirt. That's possibly my mistake. So I believe that we will be proposing to remove the functionality at all. But yeah, for the worst or better, I think we now need to just expose some like what was the period, and then we can adjust the period based on the cluster size, and that should do it in my opinion for now.
So just for my understanding, what is the what does KSM mean?
Kernel same pages merging, I think, or something like that. It's a kernel module which can like scan for similar pages or same pages and merge them together, so you have less physical memory used. And then it's basically got like overall file system where when you then change the page, the page would be duplicated, and one process would get the modified one, and the other one would still get the same one unmodified. So basically, like the file systems we have today, which we use for containers to save space, is the same but for the memory.
Got it. And the reason why it is causing problems is this KSM feature needs a 3-minute heartbeat for its annotations.
So that was because we wanted to, like, if you would, so multiple things. One would be that user by mistake or some operator would delete the label, or it would just override it. So we would want to reconcile that label again. And Federico can keep me honest, but the second part would be that we actually have some kind of labels or annotation that you can pass on the node. And based on those information, we configure the KSM module, right?
I see. Yeah.
So we want to be responsive. I think so. Maybe let's see if we did it in the way.
I definitely think based on how you expressed it, I think an informer is needed. The polling interval would be okay, but it's not safe. But yeah, let's wait for the performance numbers and we. I actually have a related issue. So one of the things we are facing in our downstream implementations is that we have around 150 labels that are created for by this node labeler component, and we don't want those labels on our nodes. It is causing other scalability issues in the system because other non-KubeVirt components are also watching and reacting on node objects, and having these labels are causing um, scalability issues with those. So we we wanted to add a command line flag to word handler that would completely disable this um, node labeler uh, as an advanced configuration options. Do you guys have thoughts on whether that would be acceptable or not?
So yes, like for the disabling, I think it's yes, but only for your use case. Because I'm at least if I'm familiar with it, is that you don't really do migration at the point, right?
Yes.
Because what node labeler will do for you is expose CPU types and then machine types. So for machine type, you need to basically like perceive the same board with the same ABI. So if you would be migrating, that would be needed, but you don't. So that's one thing that you don't need. Then for CPU types, I don't think you really care about CPU types. I think whatever the node will give you, you are fine with it. So again, you don't need it. And also CPU types are important for migration because you want same type and with same features. So that's why so many labels are there, because per each type we expose the features so they would match. So the ABI of the guest would from the CPU side would remain same. So you don't need that as well. And I don't think there is anything more into it.
Yeah. So I think there is already a skip annotation feature, which if you have that annotation on the node, then the node labeler will not update those labels. But what we have found is that skip annotation also sets up all of these node labelers, and it only skips during the update, and it is wasted CPU cycle. So instead, if we can have a flag that completely does not start this component at all, I think that will be more efficient. But I wanted to get your thoughts if that is an acceptable patch upstream.
Sorry, like, can't we just adjust the? I'm just asking. Let me know, Lubo, if it works. Just adjust the behavior of the annotation, not to just skip the patch and the update of the node, but skip the functionality at all, so that we save the CPU cycles.
I don't think we can do that because first it will be a behavior change, and second, when this component is starting, I don't think a fully formed client is available to go check the annotation. And let's say we do all of that, the additional problem we will hit is we are going to deploy, let's say, 30,000, 50,000 nodes in our fleet. We will have to add this annotation on all of those objects and maintain it throughout the life cycle. I think having a central KubeVirt CR flag and uh, doing it that way will be much more user-friendly solution.
So, Lay, why don't you create an issue for this, and maybe we can go through it in the issue, and you can post the pros and cons. Because I mean, I think there's a case for it. I think, like, as you illustrated, I think, but also like Lubo said, is that there's cases where it might be needed. Maybe we can meet in the middle. Maybe there's like we can find some enhancements for the node labeler. Maybe we disable it. Maybe we can do it that way.
Sure. From our side, Srija is working on it. Srija, would you be open to creating an issue and starting this discussion?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, we can
By
have
the
we
way,
can continue to have the discussion here. Only thing is, I think what we need, and what I'm hearing is, so we need a little bit more information. Let's get the information, and we can bring it back here to have the discussion.
yeah, by the way, like, can you describe or explain more how these labels are affecting the performance of your I guess other controllers?
Play or yeah, Trisha, do you want to comment?
Sorry guys, I think I lost my internet for a minute. I missed the question.
Ah, yeah. So you just mentioned that the labels are affecting your, I guess, some controllers. Can you just elaborate on that, like how it is affecting it?
Yeah, so we have a lot of node level components that watch these nodes, and sometimes as part of the watch call there is a list call made, and we all know list calls are expensive. So what ends up happening is we did a scale experiment where we removed all of these labels for our largest cluster, and just as a effect of doing that we saw 20% reduction in memory utilization of API server, um, just from the fact of removing these labels. So running the clusters efficiently and on the same configuration of control plane memory as we scale up is important, and hence reducing these kinds of um, things where it's not needed in our use cases is going to be very important as we scale up.
Okay. Have you? So I guess you didn't go much deeper into why those labels are affecting that performance so much, right?
Well, we know why it is affecting performance, right? Because the node is a shared object. Any component that watches or lists node API in the control plane, those labels are served as response to those API server call, right?
Right,
And
but like, is it just the payload is much bigger?
yeah, out of the entire node object, I think we had 150 labels, which was the highest number of labels coming from KubeVirt. And then we had
Mhm.
some other internal labels. So we had an initiative to just reduce and remove all of that um, from node objects. And now our node objects become, I think, 70% leaner or something like that.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting. Thanks. And also, I'm looking at the node label. So, what might be a problem is like, do you use Ceph, for example, or Hyper-V features?
No, there was just out of 150, there was just one label that we were using, which is the uh, hypervisor CPU type. And the good thing is um, we have a workaround on how to add that label um, back to the nodes. So since that is livable, I don't think we are using any other labels.
So you're using the CPU model or which one?
CPU, I forget. I'll have to get back to you. There's just one label that we use.
CPU vendor label.
Oh yeah. Okay. Thank you, Srija. I think we had CPU vendor um for some over subscription or something like that.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, makes sense.
Okay. All right, guys, why don't we move on? Because we only have 4 minutes left. I don't know if we'll get to the continue the discussion we had last time about our performance investigation, but let's go to this one. Alay, you wanted to go through this one too.
Yes. So um this is again for Lubo and Federico. We are running into an issue where um, during VMI creation, there is a get call being made to um, network attached definition. And if we create, let's say, 200 VMIs in a burst, um, or maybe delete and recreate it, then you can see in the logs there is a 6-second client side throttling happening. So just because of this get call, we will be um, spending 6 seconds um, in VMI creation to running wait time, and this is breaching all of our SLOs. So we wanted to convert this get call into an informer based get cached get. Uh, Again, from performance and scale point of view, I think I wanted to get your thoughts if this is acceptable.
So I'm trying to find where the call is made.
Oh, it's linked in the issue. If you look at the here link, Ryan, I think there is one. Yeah, that one. That function internally makes a get call. And I think the second link was the definition of that function.
Yeah, I'm not seeing why they wouldn't be able to convert this into uniformer.
I think India already has a patch for doing that. If you are open to reviewing it, like we can send it your way.
Otherwise, it should be fine.
Perfect. I think that's all I had. Sorry, Ryan, taking up all of the time this meeting.
That's okay. We need to have these discussions anyway, so that's good. I don't all right, so we only have 1 minute, but I was wondering if anyone has had a I have not, but I was wondering if anyone else has had a chance to look further into our investigation from last time. I can summarize it real quick. I think we were at a point where we reached a few PRs further down that showed the performance dip, and you can see it like right here. Oops. P95 and all this is off. So has anyone had a chance to look at this again or no? If we'll still need to look at this next week.
Unfortunately, it will be no for me.
Okay.
Yeah,
I didn't get a chance to look at this either, so I don't know. I was wondering if anyone else had.
Yeah, I didn't have a chance to look at it. The only point I think I would like to raise for the next call is if we can make this release blocking in some sense. I think shipping a release with such regression is not ideal. So I'd like to discuss if we can do that or not.
Can you write the email to the kuberdev, please?
Sure.
But yeah, I think like double the time, I believe, right? It's not
Yep.
great.
Yeah, I
cool.
think one more context on that though, like just because we talked about this last time and you didn't get this chance to see it, and before you do, take a look at this. So there's one more data point. So right here, right, it's February 20th, right? That's when we change, and we go from about consistently 18, 19 to basically an average in the 20s, right? If you look down here, here's the create pod count. So what's interesting is that there were some jobs that were getting below full their normal amount, which I thought was interesting. So I think something we need to think about here. So we should write the email and talk about it, but we need to also decipher this because if we're if this means that we're reading this wrong, like if the number of VMs being created, like if the data here was based on like the non-full amount, right? Like less than 100, and this is actually getting to 100, then that could also explain this too.
Yes, but I mean that would mean that we did some changes into the framework, right? Or something. We had to switch something in order for all the pods now showing up because it's like very consistent. It's like the results, if you look at everything, the results are more consistent.
Yeah. Well, I just want to raise that as one of the data points that we can talk about in this thread, like to make this release blocking, is that here's the three things that changed. It's the number of create VMs changed, and the number how long it took for the P50 and the P95 changed.
So Ryan, is your concern that the the stack is not reliable enough for release blocking, or
My
um,
concern is that we're is that there's a possibility, there's like a non-zero possibility that what we're seeing on the right is actually happening over here in the left, but we weren't seeing enough VMs created to notice it. And something changed with the delay. I don't know what would have changed in the keyword side that would have caused the metric gathering to be incorrect. That's just one possibility here. That's what I'm saying is that I think we should still raise this as like something we need to investigate to block, but we'll just keep this in mind that that is a non-zero possibility here. That it's the job.
yeah, I think my point about blocking release on this was more generic, not just for this scenario. Is that anytime we have a regression of more than, let's say, 20% than our baseline, we should block on the releases and bottom out, like all hands on deck on what was the issue. That was where I was going with it, because if we don't do that, then really there is no point for us in maintaining these graphs and this stack, right? We're doing it so that we can monitor the release and we can ship a better product uh, over time.
Yep, absolutely. So that's exactly what I'd say. Is that I just want to make sure that we're not going to say that it's just like it for sure got slower because of the possibility that maybe it didn't and we just were measuring wrong. But what you just said makes sense. Like I said, we need to make sure, and we should be spending, our attention in making this release blocking and spending our attention to make sure that this is not a regression.
By the way, we are over time. I don't want to hold you anymore, but one thing which should probably help us is to have an ability to go back and trigger the job on arbitrary commit, right? I would ask Daniel if he can probably help us with that. I think it should be possible, and it could help us to narrow down where we see this major shift.
Yeah, but I mean, we can run for sure something, from some specific commit, but we cannot, at least as far as I know, roll back the configuration of the cluster of the Hugger CI, because probably it also can affect those numbers.
We can, I mean, you would use the same configuration, because if you just roll back to some commit, the commit will use specific CI, Kubernetes CI, and so that node configuration should be the same.
Yeah. So how about this, guys? I didn't want to derail what Elias proposed, but I just wanted to be clear, like how we phrase this. So I agree, like let's make the proposal to delay the release for this reason, and then let's come up with a plan of how we want to go about this, how we want to try and alleviate the problem.
Okay, thank you. Just last question. When is the next release coming up? Is it soon?
I think we are 1 month to branching. Let me see.
Yeah, around 1 month for the feature freeze.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, for the feature freeze, yes. So if the question was for the DRA, yeah.
Oh, no. I think the question was for this SIG scale.
Okay.
Right. So if we were to say, okay, we are making this release blocking, what time do we have for digging into this? That was more of the context of them. It looks like we haven't.
Yeah, enough because code freeze is on 25th June, but that's only code freeze, and we still have like GA is planned on 16 July. That gives us almost 2 months.
Yeah, but the code freeze will be blocked as well.
No, I think the blocker is only blocking maybe RC or the GA, one of those, or both.
Oh, okay, maybe you're right, because I think that the release script will be blocked if there is a release blocker. But
I mean,
it's
the branchings should go through, I believe, and if not, then we will just adjust the script.
all right. We can maybe we'll solve it before we find it in a month.
Okay. All right, so Lei, I think you'll take the AI to start the thread and we'll follow along and then we'll continue to work on diagnosing it in these meetings.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. All right, sounds good. Thanks, guys.